The Orlando Magic fall to the Toronto Raptors 104-102, and this is getting insane. Guys, if you watch this game, you know the frustration is really starting to build and potentially boil over. This was one heck of a game, and unfortunately, we lost to a team that is probably actively tanking as we speak. Guys, welcome into Magic Digest. I'm your host, Patrick Previty. This is your one-stop shop for Orlando Magic basketball content here on YouTube. Now, before we get into everything in this game, I want to make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel. We want to make it to 1,000 subs. Welcome in to the month of March here on this channel. Hopefully, we can get to 1,000 by the end of this month. Okay, this game was just so unfortunate to lose. The Magic found themselves down 12 early on in the game. They lost the first quarter 27-19, had a good second quarter, got to the line a lot, and there were some things to like. There were some nice silver linings. Wendell Carter Jr. played well. Franz Wagner played well. Paolo Banchero showed up at the very end. He didn't take a lot of shots from the floor, but he got to the line a lot, and that's where he got his offense from. There were times when this team did not look like they knew exactly what was going on offensively, and unfortunately, I think Cole Anthony's got a major problem with over-dribbling and getting a bad shot. I think there was some frustration going on with some of his Magic teammates on his facilitating, and by the end of the game, we saw Jamahl Mosley turn to Corey Joseph. Now, this Raptors team played well, and they played well enough to win, and got to give props to them, but this is looking like a Magic disaster class as they are going to be without Jalen Suggs for the foreseeable future. We'll get into his injury plus a little bit in the month of review after I'm done talking about this game. Let's take a look at the box score. As I mentioned, free throws were a big thing, 35 of 42 from the line, but of course 7 threes in the game. Now, they kind of pulled the amount of threes that they usually take back, but only 7 made in the game isn't going to cut it. But obviously the Raptors didn't shoot well enough to shoot the Magic out of the game. But they also had a fair share of free throws as well with 30. So they were able to kind of keep pace in that aspect. R.J. Barrett played well, Emmanuel Quickley, and Jakob Poeltl and Scotty Barnes. They all shot pretty decent. Didn't have a ton of bench scoring, but had just enough to, like I said, match the Orlando Magic's bench scoring, which was non-existent. Just seemed like a lot of guys weren't able to find their shot. And as you can see, Corey Joseph did make a little bit of an impact when he entered the game late, but too little, too late. That was the story for the Orlando Magic tonight. And Cole Anthony had one of his worst games that we've seen, and Anthony Black definitely had a poor outing. It was, the turnovers weren't really what did us in because everybody, it was the same as the Toronto Raptors, but if you can bring that number down a little bit, I'm sure they want to. This is one of those losses where it's gonna really test the psyche of this team. The silver lining is that they were able to make this a game late somehow, some way, and that Franz Wagner definitely could have made that layup at the very end of the game to bring the Magic a win, a much-needed win, help them get to 30 wins on the season. But that wasn't the case. That's not the world that we live in. That's not what we're dealing with right now. And now the Orlando Magic are going to have to play the Raptors again on Tuesday and hope that they can split these games. Because if you can't split it against the Raptors, then we should call it. Because after that, we got Bucks, Rockets, and that's 2 of the next 3 games after the second Raptors game. You also got the Bulls sandwiched in there, and you got to go, 3-0 in those to really help yourself try to stay alive. At this point, the Orlando Magic are sitting at 29-33, as I've mentioned, where they are a half game back from Miami for the 7th seed. They are now 6.5 games back from Detroit, who is the 6th seed. If you were thinking that we could potentially make it into the playoffs, I'm starting to think that with the way that this team is playing, especially with our road record, which is 11-19, that is not a possibility. Extremely tough loss. Do I blame Mosley tonight? Yeah, I felt like this offense was stagnant. Do I blame Weltman? Yes, I blame him even more. You guys know how I stand. Continue to tell me in the comment section down below how you feel about this team. Super unfortunate. Let's get into the month in review of February. This kind of also goes into some of the game recap. On a bit of a lighter note, I asked you guys what was the game of the month for the Magic in February. We had 5 wins. We went 5-7. and I chose these 4 as the realistic ones to be the game of the month, and you guys overwhelmingly said the San Antonio Spurs game, and I'd have to agree. That was one of the better moments of the year, and obviously got a stop late, which was so huge, so great for morale. Most of, a couple of these games were really good for morale because we were just really counting on wins in the month of February. But that Spurs one I thought was probably the most impressive, and of the teams that we beat, I think it was probably the best team was that Spurs team. And obviously they still had Wemby to that point in the year. What grade would you give the Orlando Magic for February? As you guys can see, I also vote on these, and I gave a D and an F. I probably would say a D because 5 and 7 doesn't really put you out in any sort of way, but I felt like the way the team handled the Suggs injury by not being completely transparent or potentially just not being proactive and trying to find exactly what was wrong, on top of us having the All-Star break and still looking like the same exact team, and the trade deadline, I felt like this team just should not even be touching C territory. So D and an F, probably leaning towards D just simply because we didn't go 2 and 11 or anything like that, or 2 and 10, but still poor month. And on the basketball court, it wasn't so bad, but the morale and culture of this team has certainly fallen. D and an F for the month of February. And if you guys want to retroactively vote on these, be my guest, because I think the player of the month you guys may have gotten wrong here. Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, pretty much neck and neck. Both of those guys played extremely well in this past month, but I felt like Franz Wagner was definitely the more consistent and statistically the better player in the month of February for Orlando. Now, nobody else has come in close, and I was very surprised to even get a couple of votes for Cole Anthony or other. But, whatever. It's probably not real anyway. But still at the same moment, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and everybody else on this roster as far as I'm concerned. Now, it's great to put the month of February behind us, but unfortunately we start the month of March with this poor loss against the Toronto Raptors. Last topic for this video is going to be on Jalen Suggs. Today, it was announced that he was going to have arthroscopic surgery on his knee to remove a fragment to potentially help him with his trochlea injury so he can get back out on the basketball court. Now, there's a lot of people been talking about, hey, he could come back for the playoffs. He is not out for the season. I don't believe any of that. I believe he is out for the year, and I don't think he should play, honestly. He's a very injury-prone player. I think at this point he has earned that title, and I also think everything that the Orlando Magic and their PR teams are feeding us as complete lies and nothing that, in my opinion, should be taken with at all seriousness. So I don't think he'll come back, and if the Magic make the playoffs out of the play-in, because I don't think he'll be back for the play-in, I would be very skeptical of that. I would be very surprised, and I would still say it's about a coin flip if we make the playoffs. I don't think he's touching the regular season whatsoever, but I hope he can make a full recovery. Even then, I'm worried that this could end up being a long-term thing. When you have these mysterious injuries, they always end up lingering, and there's something wrong. And modern medicine is great, but it's not all-knowing and effective at every moment, especially when you're putting so much stress on your body as an NBA basketball player. But we will have to wait and see. This Jalen Suggs injury has completely changed the course of the season, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back, unfortunately, for the Magic. 29-33, 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, 1 ahead of Atlanta, and 4.5 ahead of Chicago. And we are even further ahead of the Philadelphia 76ers, who I don't think are in any means capable of catching us, or if we were to fall, catching Chicago or anybody like that. So I don't think anybody's jumping into the play-in and falling out of the play-in. So I think that these are going to stay put, but we will have to just hunker down, get a win against the Raptors in a couple days. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And as always, I will see you guys next time with more Orlando Magic basketball content.